In this module, we will learn the inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs of the Conduct Procurements process. Conduct Procurements is the process of finding potential sellers through solicitation, evaluating the qualifications of those sellers, and then selecting sellers and formalizing the terms and conditions of the agreement. This process includes creating awareness to potential sellers that a good or service is needed, receiving bids or proposals from the sellers, determining the best provider, and negotiating the terms and conditions of the agreement with the chosen seller. The PMBOK guide includes several inputs to the Conduct Procurements process, many of which are generated in the Plan Procurements process. The Procurement Management Plan defines how this and other procurement processes will be performed. This may include organizational rules regarding purchasing, along with a project-specific approach to how procurement management will be addressed for the project at hand. Procurement documents includes bid documents, procurement statements of work, independent estimates, and source selection criteria, which together will define which items needs to be procured in this process and how the decision will be made. These are all inputs to the process as they provide a figurative shopping list for the project. Once potential sellers have been identified and provided information regarding the project needs, the project team should receive proposals or bids from the potential sellers. These will be collected and evaluated as part of this process. Finally, other project documents and organizational process assets may be utilized. For example, the risk register and stakeholder register may be referenced. Organizational process assets may include past performance information about sellers the organization has worked with in the past. The tools and techniques of the Conduct Procurements process can fall into two major categories: seller solicitation and seller selection. Solicitation is important to ensure that qualified sellers are identified and aware of the project need. The more qualified sellers that provide proposals, the more competitive the process should become. Advertising is a way to help promote the message that you are seeking proposals from qualified sellers for a product or service. This can take many forms, such as print or online. Bidder conferences are another solicitation technique where potential sellers are invited to attend a presentation hosted by the buyer to learn about the products or services needed. Bidder conferences help to create transparency, allowing all potential sellers to receive the same message at the same time. Transparency is important when managing procurements to help ensure fair competition and avoid potential ethical dilemmas. After creating awareness of the need, the project team should begin to receive seller proposals and input to this process. There are several tools and techniques related to the selection of sellers. Independent estimates is a cost or time estimate prepared by the performing organization or a third party to serve as a baseline for comparing seller quotes. A large deviation from this baseline may be regarded as a warning sign that the seller is not a good match. Proposal evaluation techniques, analytical techniques, and expert judgment include various methods that the performing organization may use to evaluate potential sellers. A weighting system is a data-driven approach to evaluating selection criteria. By giving each criteria a weight to score each prospective seller, the influence of personal opinion can be reduced. A screening system documents mandatory criteria sellers must meet to continue to be evaluated. A proposal that does not meet all requirements can be disregarded. Seller rating systems is a method for evaluating sellers based on past performance. Typically, this information is obtained from the performing organization's lessons learned or from relationships with the seller. Once top candidates have been selected, procurement negotiations is a technique of creating terms and conditions that are mutually beneficial to both buyer and seller. This should provide a clear understanding of the requirements and expectations of both the buyer and the seller throughout the procurement process. The two key outputs of the Conduct Procurements process is a list of selected sellers and the agreements reached with each. While the project team may have the authority to select sellers, organizational senior management may need to be involved when the terms and conditions include a high value or complex statement of work. Agreements is a legal contract between buyer and seller stating what product or service will be provided, at what cost, and any other terms and conditions that may apply. Once a contract agreement has been awarded, the terms and conditions may differ from the original project plan. This may lead to new resource calendars or change requests to the project scope, schedule, or budget. Resource calendars, similar to those that were an output of the acquire team process, are an input to several time planning processes such as develop schedule. Change requests will be reviewed by the integrated change control process to help ensure that all project baselines are properly updated. The Conduct Procurements process may also create additional project documentation and updates. This may include updating the procurement management plan, the activity resource requirements, or the stakeholder register. Conduct Procurements is the process of finding potential sellers through solicitation, evaluating the qualifications of those sellers, and then selecting sellers and formalizing the terms and conditions of the agreement. This process includes creating awareness to potential sellers that a good or service is needed, receiving bids or proposals from the sellers, determining the best provider, and negotiating the terms and conditions of the agreement with the chosen seller.